Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining our March webinar. I've been looking forward to this one where we are going to unveil this year's finalists. We've been, over the past few weeks, releasing the finalists in each category, and today it'll be fun to walk through again all of those finalists and some of what makes these projects so outstanding. We got a record number of submissions this year, continues to grow each year, which is, of course, what we want. I know the judges had a very difficult time getting down to just these three, and really looking forward to the event next week, a week from today, where we'll announce the winners. As usual, lines will be muted. Time for questions at the end via chat box, if any. And today should be fairly quick. I'm going to move through these quickly. I'm Dave Hodgins, Executive Director of LA Better Buildings Challenge. Innovation Awards. This is the 5th year we've been doing that, this program, and it's very exciting, as I mentioned, to see it growing year after year. It is the city's most prestigious sustainability award. It really is taking a lot of factors into context, and I'm very proud of the collaboration that we're seeing with all of our partner organizations. And we're thinking not just about innovation in terms of technology, and I think this is what makes this unique. This is innovation in terms of human interaction, of thinking about new paradigms, new ways of doing things, not just sitting back on a LEED certified building, for example, but continuing to find new ways to save energy and water, engaging stakeholders, whether that's within the organization or external, partnering with utilities, outside groups to help drive deeper efficiencies. So it's not just technology, but also execution, market context. All of these things come into play. I wanted to take another opportunity to thank our collaborating organizations. You see all of them listed here, but it's been a collective effort to help get the word out there. The executive management from all of these organizations also served as judges. So I think that's another thing that makes this really interesting, fun, and unique, is the diversity of perspectives that we see. We see folks from ASHRAE, from BOMA, from the Institute for Real Estate Management, and the other groups you see listed here, all scoring these projects based on their respective position is super interesting. And I have to say, I was excited to see as the scoring was coming in. It was a very dynamic process. I mentioned we've been promoting the finalists in each category gradually over the past few weeks. We've also been promoting those on globestreet.com and through their emails, which go out to, I think, over 30,000 commercial real estate professionals in California. So lots of visibility on these projects. We think it's very important to shine a light on these success stories, because all of these are really setting the bar for what's possible. We produce case studies on all of the finalist projects as well. This is just a screenshot of one we did last year for Brookfield. They were a finalist. Oh, excuse me. This one is for their winning submission for Portfolio of the Year last year. So we'll be producing those for all the finalists, but of course it's about the awards, and we will be, of course, welcoming all of the finalists and winners to the stage to accept those. Same categories: Water Efficiency Project of the Year, Energy Efficiency Project of the Year, and Portfolio of the Year, which is multiple properties, energy and water. The criteria are generally the same across the categories, and I'll get into the scoring process in a little bit. But as I mentioned, the judges each have a diverse perspective, or their own perspective rather, on what makes each of these projects worthy of the awards. So we're looking, of course, at the unit energy savings and or water savings, depending on the category. Percentage, that's to account for the differences between large properties and small properties. We do have very diverse participation, and that's intentional. And then qualitative factors around, what is the organization-wide commitment? How do these projects align with that? Market context. Is this building already a high performer for the asset of its type? Do they continue to raise the bar? Is it a building that was perhaps, under-maintained, under-invested in prior to acquisition? how does this fit into the context of what's going on in the market? What are the market pressures to push or not push for deeper efficiencies, and what kind of commitment does that demonstrate from ownership? Stakeholder engagement I spoke about, and this concept of innovation generally, not just in technology, but in execution, in terms of continuing to push the bar and thinking in new ways about the value proposition of building performance. This is what the scoring sheet looks like, and all of our judges completed one of these. Across the top are the different criteria. Then this is where it gets fun. Each judge assigns a weighting factor to each of the criteria. So as you see, the savings are 2 of the criteria, but there's 4 others. They score each of those criteria relative importance to one another on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 being least important relative to the others, 10 being most important relative to the others. Then they score each project relative to the other projects on a scale of 1 to 10. And then the spreadsheet calculates a weighted average score. So it's fairly simple, but it gives a lot of clarity, I think, to trying to decide between very different, all very compelling projects. And then we compile all of these and figure out who's the winner based on the judges' combined scoring. So it's very objective, and it's an interesting way of helping to sift through all of this information. And I want to, again, thank the judges for the time and the thought and the consideration that they put into their scoring. It's much appreciated, and it's what makes this interesting. So with that, I'll dive into a quick overview of the finalists in each category. So our first category, Energy Efficiency Project of the Year. Our first finalist, City National Plaza. They've been a repeat competitor and a repeat contender in the awards, owned by Commonwealth Partners. They are a national portfolio. They've got several assets in Los Angeles. City National Plaza is certainly a trophy, and they've owned it for quite a while, since 2004. It was already very efficient when they acquired it, with a score of a 74 at that time. It was also not very well leased. It had a vacancy issues. So for them to bring that up from a 74 to an 82 while getting the facility to almost 100% leased, super impressive. And of course, each year we're looking at what was achieved in the relevant calendar year. So we're looking at 2018 for the year-over-year savings, in addition to that cumulative improvement since acquisition or taking over management. 4% EUI reduction in 2018 is huge, on top of everything they've already achieved. So a whole range of projects they've implemented and continue to find new ways to squeeze performance out of this building. Paramount Studios, very interesting project. Of course, I think everybody's heard of Paramount Studios. It's about 1,000 buildings, I think, in total. No, 100 buildings in total, excuse me, on the lot. They just completed implementation of a comprehensive 10-year plan to improve the efficiencies, both operational, but also from a utility management perspective. Done a whole range of things. Some of the outstanding projects included a zero-bleed central cooling plant, which serves a lot of their data centers. Of course, film and television has gone digital over the last decade, and uses an increasingly high amount of data center space to store and process, edit, manage all of that content. So a huge opportunity and challenge there, and impressive that while growing their business and continuing to operate the facility to cut lot-wide energy use by 13%. Very, very impressive. And just in terms of the qualitative factors and the commitment, they're now in the process of coming up with what's the next 10 years. And I'm really looking forward to working together with Doug and the team at Paramount on that. They're really looking at ways they can take it even further and get super creative to drive deeper efficiencies. Very interesting, very different look than City National Plaza high-rise office. Another high-rise office, but bridges, I think, into this entertainment space and super intense data center use. NBC Universal, 10 Universal City Plaza is their headquarters. It is a true headquarters. They have over the past several years rather, consolidated business units that had been scattered kind of throughout the city, throughout LA, at different offices, different facilities into this building as they cycled out some of the other non-Comcast, non-NBC tenants that had been in the building previously. So massive influx of new occupants and very high energy intense uses. Again, this is film and television, or television here. Heavy data center use. So to do that while at the same time cutting the central plant energy use intensity by 40% through a total replacement and upgrade of the central utility plant, and comprehensive upgrades throughout the facility. They boosted their score from an already good 73 up to an 81. Pretty incredible. They're doing a lot of interesting work throughout the lot as well, and I think we'll hear more about that in future years. But thinking about working in a dynamic, occupied space and kind of achieving multiple business objectives at the same time, very impressive example. We had a fourth finalist in the energy efficiency category this year because we couldn't get it down to 3. We generally try to get it down to 3, but we felt that all 4 of these projects really deserved the full consideration and recognition as finalists. So the Westin Bonaventure Hotel, I think everybody knows it. It's a very iconic building. I think it's still the largest convention hotel west of the Mississippi, well over 1,000 rooms. They had an issue with hot water. The central plant, which is aging, was unreliable, and they decided to go ahead and install a super efficient, super modern, high temperature hot water plant in the basement of the hotel. Finding space to do that, and this hotel runs at nearly over 90% occupancy year-round because it is a convention hotel. Very impressive. So finding the space and then doing this while keeping the level of service up for the guests, very, very impressive. They're also doing a bunch of interesting things with waste heat recapture and also with water recapture, actually, and recycling, which I'll get to because they did so much on the water side that they're a finalist in that category as well. Energy Star scores for hotels for some quirk of the system tend to be lower generally. So to take it up from a 52 to a 63, it's almost, call it a 18, 15% increase, 20% increase. Pretty incredible. Very interesting project, and an example of how we're improving kind of the resiliency, the service level of a building while running full occupancy, not missing a beat, and at the same time slashing energy use significantly. And I think I don't have it in the slide here, but it's about a 5% overall reduction just from this project. Moving on to water efficiency, another interesting year in terms of water recycling and huge projects. UCLA, a prior winner from 2 years ago, continued to expand on their existing water reclamation program. That's the project that won 2 years ago, saving an additional 30 million gallons a year on top of what they were already saving. It's pretty incredible. Really innovative in terms of application of technology that exists already just through creative thinking and kind of a goal orientation and a long-term view. They've basically connected, at this point, I think upwards of 60 or 70 facilities, collecting condensate, collecting blowdown, all kinds of water that would normally be discharged, and piping it over to the central plant. But the project they capped off in 2018 that was nominated this year, similar idea, was applying existing technologies but in a novel combination to provide filtration on incoming water to the campus cogen plant. And they've got dedicated cooling towers that cool the cogen plant, and through a combination of microfiltration and reverse osmosis, they're saving an additional 18.5 million gallons a year and getting about 7 cycles of concentration on that cooling tower. That set of cooling towers rather, which is great. And also interesting, I think, is that the idea came from a system that was designed within the campus community rather, and was tested on a military base, succeeded there, and was used as the basis for design, the specification that they went out to bid to actually then build and install. So pretty cool example of a homegrown technology finding application and then also getting exported out into the world. Similar solution to what Cedars-Sinai actually implemented last year in their groundwater reclamation reuse project that won in this category. And as I mentioned, the Westin Bonaventure, again, is back in the water efficiency category. They also had an existing water recycling system that was recycling water for use in the laundry. The hotel does its own laundry, so lots of towels and sheets in that over 1,000 rooms, tablecloths for all of those events. In combination with this, the construction of the new high-temperature hot water plant, they're capturing the blowdown from the boilers and layering that into the expanded water, save an additional 2.2 million gallons a year of water. Very impressive. I've toured this facility and seen the project in its various phases. I don't know how they continue to find space and to do this while keeping service up is very, very impressive. This shows this dedication to continued improvement and very innovative in terms of just the design thinking, the commitment from ownership, and then the execution on site to keep all the systems up and running, keep the guests happy. Got to have hot water if you're staying in a hotel. So very impressive project. And the last one in the water efficiency category this year, another facility that I think everybody will recognize, the Olympics coming to LA, of course, is a very big deal. And so the Coliseum is undergoing a full modernization. And as part of that, they basically overhauled all of the water using systems. Of course, it's open air, so we don't have cooling towers. But all of the plumbing fixtures have been retrofitted to the state of the art. As far as you can go with water efficiency and plumbing fixtures. And of course, you've got to be thinking about health and safety. They have great signage so that all of the guests, all the fans that are coming and going and using the facilities are getting educated on water efficiency and the impact that the Coliseum is having from having retrofitted all of their plumbing fixtures to own super efficient state-of-the-art fixtures. So I think what was most innovative about this one is just the volume of people that are going to see this and get educated because water, water conservation really needs to be a way of life for us. We had a wet year, but who knows what next year is going to bring. So 3 very different looks, again, in the water efficiency category. Moving on to Portfolio of the Year, our most prestigious award. As I mentioned, we got a record number of submissions, and especially in this category, which is the toughest category, it was tremendous to see the participation and also to see more multifamily residential portfolios in the mix. So our first finalist is Avalon Bay. They're based on the East Coast, out of Virginia. They have a national portfolio of about 280 properties, and it's really, I should say, communities, because as you can see in this example picture, there are multiple buildings, multiple hundreds of units at each of these communities. So it's a gigantic portfolio by any measure. They set an internal goal to reduce energy use intensity 15% by 2020, and that was from a 2015 baseline. In LA, they hit that goal. They actually exceeded that goal 2 years early, I should say. 16 properties in LA. They are very sophisticated in the way that they evaluate technologies for deployment, and when they do deploy a new technology, they do it at scale. And so it's been a lot of fun to support and work with them and to see how they think about this stuff, because it really is about scale. And of course, water is also part of the evaluation in the portfolio category, and very impressive reductions there too. They've got mostly garden-style apartment communities, and so there is some landscaping, and they're, again, very sophisticated in the way that they do that. And I think we'll see this number continue to climb, or rather the reductions continue to climb as they dial in their weather-based irrigation controllers and continue to find efficiencies there. Brookfield is back again. They picked up 2 more buildings in 2018. So last year they had 6, now they have 8. Pretty interesting to see the way that they continue to drive, post huge numbers and drive savings in these buildings that are already very, very efficient. On average, we saw about a 3% EUI reduction in each of the 8 buildings in 18. They submitted a very detailed list of all the projects that they've done at each facility, very focused on water as well, 4% average water use intensity reduction in 18. And I think the new acquisitions were some of these properties that were under-maintained by the prior owner. So they'll see these numbers continue to jump up, I think, as more projects come online in those buildings. But as I said before, it's just really amazing to see the coordination between the engineers at each of the buildings. They meet every month in person and talk about what's working, what are challenges, how did I get over those. And ownership is in the room too, and supporting the engineers in bringing projects forward and actually providing them with the funding and support that they need to move forward and continue to improve the performance of their buildings. So I can't say enough about the commitment. These guys are living it, and growing and continue to be downtown LA's largest landlord. Very impressive. Our third finalist in the portfolio category is another multifamily owner, Equity Residential, based out of Chicago. They have 11 properties in LA. Of course, dozens and hundreds of units at each of those. Continue to do comprehensive upgrades focused mainly on the common areas, but lighting, HVAC, plumbing upgrades. Big reductions in 2018, primarily through implementation of LED upgrades, 6% average EUI reduction in 18. That's a huge number for a single year. And their average energy score is tremendous, an 89 up from a baseline of 75. So a lot of newer properties, very high performing, and they're not just sitting back on the 75, that continue to find ways to up the ante, and really impressed also with the way they told the story in their write-up, and I think the judges were too. So again, the criteria are somewhat the same across the various categories. The unit and percentage savings are a big part of it, but it's also these qualitative factors. What is the organization-wide commitment? How do these projects align with that and illustrate, progress towards that's real? What's the market context? We see that a lot of these buildings were already high performers relative to their peers, but they continue to raise the bar. They continue to show that just because you've got a high score doesn't mean there isn't more that makes sense to do. Engaging stakeholders, meeting with engineers from other buildings, sharing best practices, educating tenants, educating other stakeholders, and innovation in terms of project execution, innovative applications of technologies, whether those are homegrown or new or existing, all very different. And so that is what this is about, and that is how the judges did their scoring. And so I'm excited about the event, which is coming up a week from today, where we will announce the winners. So I want to thank everybody for joining. I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of you next week at the California Endowment. Thanks, everybody.